The Hunting and Packs freelance series, we did a session last month with Nikki Lam-Tudigo, and this is the second session. And this one is about advancing your vision with a freelance team. In an article about 2021 freelance trends, gig economy guru and freelance writer John Younger says, teaming and hunting in packs enables freelancers to compete for larger, more complex enterprise work. More platforms are encouraging teams and teamwork among freelancers on their platforms. If you ever get a chance to read John Younger's stuff, he is the guru on freelancers and the freelance revolution. He's got all kinds of great stuff. I've been freelancing since 2004 and collaborating with other freelancers most of my 16 years freelancing. I believe hunting in packs is a powerful way to build a successful freelance business. That's why I started CoLaborNation, an online community that helps Canadian freelance marketing and communication professionals to collaborate by trading referrals, sharing their expertise, and working on client projects together. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about CoLaborNation at the end of the session, but I'm going to jump into introducing Tom Vogel, our interview guest today. If you have any questions during the presentation, post them in the chat, and during the Q&A, you can unmute yourself to ask your questions directly. Most freelancers work alone. When they get too busy to do all the work themselves, some freelancers hire employees and start small businesses. Tom Vogel had a great idea to help real estate agents interact with home buyers during virtual tours in the midst of pandemic restrictions. He reached out to a friend with complementary skills to bring his vision to life. As his new service gained traction with clients, he hired more freelance photographers. Let me tell you a little bit more about Tom's background, and I'm going to get him to share a little as well, because I'm sure I just know the bare minimum about him. Tom is a former copywriter and senior creative for an Australian news outlet. He made the jump to freelancing 27 years ago. Currently is a photographer who creates innovative virtual experiences to show homes, theaters, and other spaces with a team of freelance photographers and creatives. Tom, welcome.
Hey, thank you. This is great to be here, gotta say.
Is there anything else you want to say about your long and varied freelance career? Some of the other things
there is. Yes, there is. It's something that I almost everyone forgets to mention, and that is in the 1980s, I had a flock of seagulls hairdo. So use your imagination for the rest of this interview, okay? That flock of seagulls hairdo took me a long way, you know. Anyways, yeah, so it's funny because back in the day, I was working corporate. Yes, I was and Deb, you as a copywriter yourself, you'll know what that's all about. So when I was working corporate as a copywriter, it's funny, I got this job out of the blue thinking I was going to be in a cubicle with 1,000 other copywriters at News Limited, Rupert Murdoch's mothership in Australia. And his son Lachlan was just brought on as chairman. So I get this job thinking I'm going to be one of thousands. And I get there and the guy lets me, mate, yeah, you got the corner office, mate. So where's my cubicle? The corner office, mate. I forget. Says, what do you mean I forget? Says, no, mate, you're it. You're the copywriter for Australia. What? So I was literally thrown at the deep end. And I worked for them about 3.5 years, and I worked with Lachlan, his son, the Rupert son, for about 3 of those 3.5 years. He was a great kid to work with. And when I finally made the move away and started doing it on my own, I found myself with great experience. I had a personal letter from Lachlan Murdoch that said, Tom's the best thing since sliced bread. Hire him for anything you want to do. Wonderful, thanks, mate. And off we went. I go out into Sydney, onto the streets, and it was difficult to find a job. To just find, hi, I'm a copywriter. Yeah. So I worked with this and I worked with that. I did little bits and pieces, and I was doing it all alone, all very isolated. And then one day, a friend of mine that used to work with News Limited said, hey, Amai, look, we got a problem at the Sydney Morning Herald. We've got a real issue. Says, would you want to come on and just join the meeting? Because I know you've got great ideas. Maybe you can help out. I was like, sure, I'll come along. So we sat at this great big huge board table, and it was a classic, the big huge mahogany table, and everybody's sitting around, they're all nervous. Nobody wants to look at the head. Her name was Marcia Rahead. She was the head of the marketing of the Sydney Morning Herald, which is kind of like the Globe and Mail here, I guess. Anyways, there they are. And she is just pissed. She's pissed. I'm sitting in this meeting and she's just tearing into everyone. It's flames. And they had an advertising agency that actually went south on them, and like really south. And they said, we just lost $1 million bloody bucks. What the hell? This is, and then my little friend pipes up. Says, oh, excuse me, Marsha. Says, what? Says, I brought my friend Tom here from News Limited. We used to work together. I think he's got some ideas. Anyway, she looks at me. The whole place goes quiet. She goes, who the hell are you? Great way to start a meeting. So I don't know where it came from, but I had this inner inspiration. This is where it started. Out of my soul, my inner being pops out of my mouth. Actually, it doesn't matter who the hell I am. Who the hell are you? I shot right back at her. I said, you see, that's the question they didn't ask. If that agency you worked with had asked who the hell you were in the very beginning and listened, you wouldn't be in this fix. So you tell me, who are you? Who cares about me? And she goes, oh, I like this guy. Yeah, all right. Well, here we go. And she tells me the story. And at the end of it, she asks me this question. This huge project is on my lap, potentially. She says, now, this is a lot of work. They've taken 6 bloody months to get it done, and they just screwed it all up. Can you do this project? And it was like overwhelming. There was graphics, there was media buyers, there was, oh my God, all the things I didn't do. And I looked her right in the eyes and I said, in my best Obama, yes, we can. Yes, we can. And that's what that, and I was committed. That was it. She says, right out, when can you deliver? I'll get back to you on that. But I had this gut feeling from the scale, and I knew people. I says, I bet you we'll get this done really quickly. So I just blurted out 3 weeks, and the whole table just dropped. What? It took 6 months for these bloody yongos. Says, what, 3 weeks? Yep, 3 weeks. We'll have it delivered. Off I go. And literally that was it, on the phone. I was out there, my little cell phone back in the day, the Nokia. Remember the Nokias? And I was calling up old graphic designers, photographers I knew, media buyers, people that were all once working with me at News Limited were now out there just alone and silent and either becoming good at what they were doing or becoming alcoholics. So I thought, let's pull them away from that. Called them up and they all said, oh, mate, thanks, you saved me bloody butt, mate. Yeah, I'll be in it. And within 3 weeks, we delivered a project that literally blew them all away. Get this, we made a packet of money, all of us. And yet the packet of money we thought we made was literally maybe a fifth of what the agency was going to make in there. Well, not even more. Worse, they were going to make, that was crazy what they were going to make. We just saved them so much money. So Marsha, after that, said, you're our guy. It was only me. They only ever saw my little face. And remember, Flock of Seagulls hairdo? Very helpful. Anyways, so they only saw my face and she only dealt with me. She didn't know about Rob and Martin and Marcelo and Jen and Rachel. Didn't know about any of those people. Just knew that I was the guy who could say yes to everything they asked. And that's when I started what I called then my little cowboy agency, virtual cowboy agency, little virtual cowboys. We'd go in, do the job, and then we would just ride out into the sunset and they'd be saying, who was that masked man? And we yippee-ki-yay, and my little Australian Mazda with the wheel on the other side. Off I'd go. So seriously, it was too much fun. And so when I came back to Canada, we were there about 3 more years. Moved back to Canada because I am Canadian. It's my wife who's the Australian. And we came back here and I just said, you know what? I think this is the way to go. I think I'm gonna keep doing this. Heck yeah. We had a grand old time those last 3 years. And that's when I coined the term I mentioned to Sandra earlier, is that back then I had a choice. Tom, you could create an empire, rival the Murdochs, or you could remain lucratively low key, just lucratively low key. Put your kids to university, put food on the table, pay your mortgage, and not really suffer, not really be in a place where you're just scrabbling to make a living. So that was the plan, lucratively low key. A bit harder to achieve at first, when you first start up in any business, but just picked away at it, and after a while, reputation starts to build. And I worked for the Spectator when I first got back here, because I was a newspaper boy, right? Lachlan Murdoch said a letter, and that was great. And so I got this job at the Spectator, and that opened up doors to real estate. I became the spec homes new home and spec homes writer photographer for probably from 2001 to 2007. I was every Saturday, double page spreads, color page, black and white page, my stories and photos that I took. Back then it was filmed, then it turned to digital. And when digital came, I was unbeatable. I took over the world once digital came into my life. And then off we went. And from there, I developed this great, connection with the real estate market in Hamilton, and a name. People realize they recognize my name. To this day, they still do. I'll still walk into homes and say, "Oh, you're Tom Vogel from The Spectator. I remember your stories." And people remember, what's that about newspapers? But anyways, yeah, they still remember. And that gives me this credibility, which I still to this day am amazed at. I pinch myself that I have that credibility. But that's a catch up to where I am now, doing real estate photography as the major gig. I do everything else I mentioned before to the gang we were talking earlier. I do celebrity photography, portraiture. I do behind the scenes of movie sets and TV shows, and that blah blah blah. All sounds very glamorous, doesn't it? But then you get that one job or two jobs in a year, and if I were to hang on to that, say, "Look at me, I'm a celebrity photographer," I'd be working at Tim Hortons down the street here in Preston to augment my living, because really there's just not enough work to get around, and it doesn't matter how much collaborating I do, you just can't do that. You know what I mean? It's just a very niche market. But I did realize that niche was really important. So the niche of real estate, nobody was touching it because it's unsexy. Because real estate is boring. Real estate is uncreative. Real estate is just hard scrabble. Just, you take your camera out, take a picture of a room. What the hell is that about? What they didn't know is that I come from a magazine, newspaper background. And I was a photographer since I was 16. I'm 61 now. See? 61 now. Since I was 16, I was an avid, seriously, I don't know why I was good at photography, but I just always was. I can't even explain why I was as good at it as I was. I just always loved it. I just loved it. The world made sense. That little frame just made sense to me. And I just ate it up. So of course, I pick up my camera and off I go. And real estate, I have so many creative friends, people in the theater industry, people in the movie industry, who say, "Oh, Tom, one day you'll give up that real estate stuff and you'll start doing some real creative work." And they have no idea that every day is a creative challenge for me. I love it. I'm not jaded. I've been working at this for 20 years. I'm never jaded. And I've developed now a team around me that I just absolutely adore. One of them sitting next to me here in the Brady Bunch box, Mark. And so look at him now. He's blushing. But honestly, what a team. What a great team. And that really just keeps the joy in the job that I do.
That's great.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize you had been collaborating pretty much right from the beginning of your freelance career. And it sounds like I know from other freelancers who operate teams, the team leader is often that rainmaker. And it sounds like you're that guy who really brings in the jobs. You're the face to the client.
Yes, exactly. It's trust. I think it's they call it the point person, the the rainmaker. I like that term. That's a great one. The rainmaker. But that's true. But here's a funny thing. Here's where it's odd. So I'm the face of my company, and look at this face. Can you forget this face? Seriously, look at these eyebrows. Trust me. I've been blessed and cursed both ways with this, and it's a great thing. I've leveraged this face. Let's just say that. So this face goes into meetings and says, "Hi, let's do business." And you're either going to like it or you're not. You're going to run screaming from the building, or you're going to, "Oh, there's something intriguing here." But my job, once I get the work, is to become invisible. And I literally have built my entire career on the art of invisibility, where I actually make a point to become invisible. When I'm on that set, when I'm on the job, when I'm out at a home, all people ever need to know is that realtor or that whoever that person is that brought me in to do that job is a hero. They're a hero for the great work or the photos or the wonderful environment the team brings or the fun. So they'll say, "Oh, we love your work, Tom. This is so much fun. Oh, I love your pictures." And I go, thank you very much. I'm very gracious back. But then I say, "But if it wasn't for realtor Freddie here and his vision to bring me in the first place." And then they go, "Oh, Freddie." And they start to worship and kiss on both cheeks. And I just back away slowly, hop in my car, put on my Lone Ranger mask and drive off into the sunset. And I want them just to not even remember me. I just want them to praise my agent, because when they praise my agent, guess whose telephone rings the week later? So yes, I'm the face of it, but then I become the invisible face very quickly.
That's a really good strategy for client relations, that your job is to make your client look good to their clients.
Yes.
And that builds your credibility.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Now, you told me that you have this really great team around you that you love to work with. I know during the pandemic, you changed directions a little bit and you brought on some new tech in what you were doing with photographing homes. Can you tell me that story and kind of how you assembled your team, and probably give a nod to Mark, who's on the call?
Actually, before we even go another step further, if you can, just show Mark's face. Look, he's blushing now. Can we see, Mark, can we see your face?
Mark, if you unmute, you will pop up into the speaker view.
This is the guy that I work with. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this little sweetheart. Right?
Yeah, you bug me.
There you go. Okay, you can turn it off. Geez, some people hogging up all my airspace. So Mark and I, we're actually old friends. We're friends from way back, and that friendship is actually really important, because with that friendship, there's great trust. Mark actually knows the 11 herbs and spices of the technology that we're using. It's actually really quite specific, and we're actually quite quiet about it because of the competition that that they got a hold of some of this stuff. And we collaborate with a group out of Spain. And Mark knows the 11 herbs and spices. He's the only other guy that knows it in the team. Even my other photographers, and what I call them is creative associates. So my team there are called creative associates. My creative associate, Raquel, who is an architect, actually was a full-fledged card-carrying architect. She's now working with us. Kathy Coop, another creative associate, who is a social media guru and brings on that whole skill set, as well as an amazing photographer. So they already have an aesthetic and an eye for this kind of thing. And they all found me and I found them via, get this, our social media. We were following each other. We all like each other's work. And then it turned out that, I headhunted Raquel, for example. I headhunted her when she was working as a stager at one point. I thought, wow, we worked together, and she just had the ability to really get it. So I thought, when she becomes free, I'm gonna poach that one. And then Kathy Coop was a big fan of mine. I may say so myself, a fan. And but we just got all the house on fire, and that gal is a force of nature. But anyways, so this team that I have around me now are absolutely fascinating. They are different. They all have unique signatures, and I like that. So before they came on board, the years were quiet. I was doing my business, lucratively low key, and I was, and I had a little web design idea that was really simple and really kind of early 2000s, and it was enough to just display the photographs and the virtual tours I was doing, and it was all good. Everybody's happy, because the bottom line is my photographs are kick-ass, and so that's important in real estate. Kick-ass photography. It's not just snapshots. I go all out. So that was really good, and my relationship with my clients. But then it started to build. Things started to happen, and actually competition. Every year I'm always developing something new, because I just know you have to. I'm not very afraid of digital stuff, digital technology. And I don't know, somehow we were twins separated at birth. I just take to it like a duck to water. Never afraid of it. I'll break things. Oh, okay. I'll fix it then. You know what I mean? Digitally. It's just a total fluid world that I work in. And so I'm playing around with all the digital stuff, but I'm realizing, you know what? There's some digital stuff here that could really, really help me, because my web design and presentation looks dated. And I even had some clients saying, Tom, we love your work, but the presentation's kind of 2000s, kind of dated. You know what I mean? It's kind of, you're getting a bit long in the tooth, Tom. Well, yeah, I am. I'm 61. I'm going to be dead soon. But they said, well, maybe, you want to shape that up a bit. And then they're starting to go out. Some, not the more fickle clients, the good ones, the core ones, they never leave. But the fickle ones, they go here and they go there and they try this out. Oh, look at this. This one gives you, you can get chicken in, you can cook chicken in 5 minutes. You scratch and sniff on this one. All these new technologies. And I think I'm not gonna follow the technologies like just willy-nilly. I want to find technology that works, that really serves my client, and actually makes me look good in the process, builds my brand. I'm not just going to pick up technology for technology's sake. Oh my God, you can spin poop on a stick on the internet, and that can be fascinating, but it's still poop on a stick. You know what I mean? It's poop on a stick. Whereas if you can get something that looks great and slick and is functional, I like funky and functional. You put those two together, you've got yourself a great ingredient. That's it. If it can be funky and functional, you are in business. And so we found this an array of technologies. First was the virtual tour technology. I retooled everything on a weekend, overnight, on a weekend. I literally burned down, shut down my old website, my old everything, and burned down the technology I was doing. My old virtual gear became a paperweight, and I got new gear and a new set of tech that actually was so much more efficient, so much more saved time, and it was so much better looking. Step one. Now that was great. Things are coming along, and then more calls are coming in. I need more people, and then I had the gear. I knew the gear could be transferable, and I had Mark. Thank you, Mark. I had Mark off the side there, really being my backbone, doing I said earlier, I'm the great Oz. You see this big face, the big head, bald head. I haven't got the look of the Oz. Oh my God, I just realized now I look like the Oz. Look at this, look at this. I'm the great Oz. Well, Mark's in the background, we're rolling the wheels, making all this kind of stuff happen. And everyone's going, oh, Tom, you're such a technical genius. Well, it helps to have people like him to do that behind the scenes. So that really created a backbone for me to actually expand my business. Once I had Mark doing that, I didn't have to come home and spend a day shooting and a day processing. I could shoot that day, come back, market that process while I go out and shoot the next day. And it really saved. Yeah, go ahead.
Tell me a little bit about, there's a principle there about sticking to your strengths and working with other people in their areas of strength.
I call it signatures. Look for signatures. Look for signatures. I'm not about amalgamation. I'm not about people being clones of me with better hairdos. I really am about finding people who really have their own unique personality and voice, but yet have an aesthetic, have an eye to say, we all get that. That's beautiful. Let's try and emulate that look, but we'll do it in our way. So Kathy has a unique personality, which is a force of nature, and her style, it's just her, but it still works with the brand. Raquel has a style, very architectural, but boy, it just works with the brand. But I would never try to amalgamate and to homogenize them. If I did that, which a competitor does, I have a competitor who actually goes out of their way, they franchise their stuff, and they go out of the way to train the people to shoot exactly like them. It just so happens, to my great benefit, that they shoot like shit. And let's be honest here, they're just terrible photographers. He is a terrible photographer, and he teaches them to be terrible as well. And that's okay. Like Napoleon says, never correct your enemy. So that's okay. Let them do their thing. But I think personality and uniqueness and individuality is the strength of any creative endeavor. You need to have color and texture.
So tell me how you corral that, those personalities and that character, that signature, to still serve your brand. Do you have some kind of process? What's outside the bounds and what's within? How do you pull it all together?
Yeah, very much so. So here's two things: creativity and craft. They're two different creatures. They work together. They do their little dance. They get that whole little business, right? You know, the little German slap dance. They do it. You know, so that's creativity and craft. So when I teach it, for example, I taught it at Connersville College for a few years, and I would tell the students, first day, you know when you have to win them? And I would say this. There was a few ways I would win them, but one of the big ones, and it's genuine, I would say, okay, so I'm a bit long in the tooth. You know, like I said, I'm going to die soon. So before I do, I've got craft. I've built up a level of craft that I can teach you. I've got something to teach you. So listen to me. However, when it comes to creativity, you over there in the back row, you there in the front over here, if you have a creative spark, that fire in your belly, well, so do I. And it's ageless. It has nothing to do with age or experience. It's timeless. And that's my personal belief. And therefore, we are peers. Creatively, we are peers. Even though you're students in my class, we are peers now on a creative level. You will blow me away with your creativity as much as I'll blow you away with mine. So I'm not expecting you to have like young creativity that's going to grow and blossom into better creativity. No, you're creative because you're creative. You've got a fire in your belly. Just get it going. So if I can inspire that, great. But craft, yeah, I can teach you something. So with my team, craft folks, Mark even, I can teach you stuff with craft. And Mark was a quick learner, thank God. Mark was a quick learner, and all the rest, they all learned at their different paces. And some were worried that they weren't learning quick enough. I had never worried about that. Because craft, listen, between us, all of us, you can go to the internet on Google and learn anything that I do. You can Google and learn how to be a photographer like me. You can. The craft is all there. Enough YouTube, a day of YouTube, and you'll be a professional photographer like me. You'll know all the tricks, all the secrets, all the lensing. You'll know it all. Who cares? It's that creativity. That's what then I harness. That's the different thing. So I teach the craft, helps them to focus. And then I take that I guess that maybe emotionally courageous step to say, go and do it. I do not micromanage. I just trust them. I throw them out there. And if something comes back flat or something breaks or something's not, maybe there's too shadowy or too bright, da, 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 well, come on, we're not doing brain surgery here. It's not like someone's going to die because of that. So we can always come back to that and fix that and mold that. I'm never worried about that. The only thing I'm ever worried about is if any one of my team slaps one of my clients in the face or has an attitude or, you know what I mean? Or really is a miserable son of a bitch to be with. Well, then get out of here. You're gone. There's not even 3 strikes. You're just out of here. It's really about personality. So people need to really enjoy our presence when we walk on set. That's 80% of our success, because then they'll call us back. The craft, and of course, that creativity is also a benefit. That creativity, if they're not precious about it, if they're not divas, then that creativity harnessed well will only be a wonderful thing. People feel it. They feel the warmth of that, and they just remember you, and they want you back again. They want to be in the same room with you again. And that's what my team, every one of them embody. And so it's a very easy job. I'm not micromanaging or running around putting the whips to people. And are you working hard enough? Except for Mark. Are you, I don't do that with anyone because I just trust them emphatically. And I think that trust really is the greatest motivational manager in my particular business.
That's great. So when you're looking for team members, it sounds like you're looking for that signature creativity, that spark, but they also have to have personalities that are good, easy to get along with, and be professionals. Those are like entry level. That's what you need in a team member. Now, when you went through a vetting process, I'm sure not everyone you've come across or thought might be a good fit was a good fit. So what's your vetting process?
Oh, it's such an organic thing. So my business has been an organic growth. It's an organic evolution. I've actually evolved yearly. I've never really stayed in the same spot for myself. So to expect that of anyone else, or to put a box around how I would accept someone in or out, makes it a little bit more amorphous. So it's really comes down to, I have to really connect. I have to really feel that we have so Mark and I have a shorthand. We have a shorthand with each other. We're photographers. He's a damn good one, by the way. So we're photographers. We do this little back and forth. We gift gaff and stuff. Even before we were working together, we were just gift gaffing about photography and things, right? So with any new person I bring on board or consider, there needs to be a certain kind of like an aesthetic agreement that we kind of get what that's about. Like we understand that light's important in photography, that snapshots are not the thing. You know what I mean? That simple little things. But in a conversation, you can find out literally in the first half hour whether or not a person's a fit or not. I find it, and it's a very gut feeling thing. I think there's a lot more sophistication than just gut. I think there's a lot of stuff going on, body cues, how we read each other, how people are engaging. Do they listen well? Do I listen well? All that kind of stuff. And then I find if the person really does kind of get what I'm at, you'll see, because they get excited. There's an excitement. It's not just a job. Well, we make some money now. Woo! No, you can hear it. They're getting excited about the work itself. I get a creative challenge that I can sink my teeth into. Oh God, when you hear that kind of passion, grab onto people like that. Don't let them go. When they're passionate creatively, don't let them go. But when a person's saying, so what's my leave loading? And how many days off do I get? Do I get a sick leave? And so what's it? And they get down to nickel and diming. I tend to lean generously in my business. I tend to lean to the generous side. So if somebody says they've worked this much time, well, I'll accept and go beyond that. One of my rules of thumb working with any of my creative associates is that they bring a certain skill to the table and they do the job and they have a price that's attached to that. I will never screw them down in order to win a job. I will never throw them under the bus financially or even career-wise. If a client comes to me and says, "Tom, that was a shit job," I won't say, "Oh, that was Raquel. Oh, that was Mark." You know what I mean? No, I'll take responsibility for that. Then I'll go and talk to them as to what happened, how we can fix that, or what the other side of the story is. But the big one is screwing people down, because I've lived with that, with many people saying like that. But if you screw your price down, we can get this job because then I can get more profit myself, and you can keep you screwed down. I will always keep my creative associates at the level that they actually say, I'm worth this, and we agree to that. Good. That's never going to change. I will add things to that. I'll add my own percentages if I have to, if they do other work and stuff that it's connected to us. I'll add to the top of that, like my videographer recently, I add to the top of his quote, but I'll never push him down in order to win that client. If anything, I'll cut myself down right to almost sum zero to still get that job and get that look that we're after. Because you know what? No big skin off my nose. Come on. What's a few $100s here? A few $100s there. But if I do that to any of my creative associates, then I'm the dill. That who's going to want to work with that, right? So I find keeping the work has to do with being generous, genuinely generous, because I so appreciate and respect the skill and the talent they bring to the job. It only just makes my brand look amazing and make me look like a hero, right?
They must love working with you.
Oh, I adore them, and I hope they love me too as well. All right, I hope they love me too. But
Most days.
Yeah, most days.
That's great. Mark, while we have you unmuted, do you have any comments about what it's like to work with Tom?
The first thing I was going to say was what Tom also describes in terms of his industry. If you look at his images, what first struck me about what he does is if you look at most people's real estate photography, there's things that they sort of a standard way of doing things. But if you go through Tom's Instagram feed, what you all of a sudden see is not the classic shot of a room or a living room or a bedroom, but all of the details of a house that probably most people never see. You know, the door jamb, the thing over top of the door, the decorative piece. And Tom knows how to sort of nail that, which told me something about the way that he did work, the look at detail and so forth. So for me to jump in, it was, he calls himself a storyteller, but then it was easy for me to sort of to delve into what he did, because he did things differently than maybe others might do in the industry. And we talk about our competitors, and we don't feel like they match up just because they're about milling out the machine, where Tom was about creating the story, creating the details, and those characteristics as an industry and the way he does things is also how he walks out working with us. So he's very easy to work with, and I agree. He lets us do our stuff, and we sort of work together to sort of build that. Here's the whole package. How do we deliver it? And he makes it a lot easier, and makes it very easy for us to sort of accomplish that job. So.
That's great. And I know before with the interview started officially, you guys were talking about that you recently refined your process so that it's much easier to work together with your whole team. Do you want to say a little bit about that before I open it up for general Q&A?
Yeah, we call it the movable feast. So it's a very Hemingway, but the movable feast, and how that works is this, that if let's say a classic example of a project. So we go out, Freddie Real Estate says, oh, shoot my house. I want to have a virtual tour. I want a video, and I want a drone thing, and I want to have photographs. Okay, sure, no worries. Click, off we go. Shoot the house, drones, video, virtual tour. Come back home. Now there might be 2 or 3 of us doing that. I know I do the drone work. I do a lot of the drone stuff. I'm getting to that point where they're going in and shooting, and I'm outside just doing the drone, and then maybe schmoozing with the client and walking and smoking my cigar. I don't even smoke, but I'll do that then. You know what I mean? And then come back home, and I'll just put up my drone pictures, but then Raquel will upload her photos that she did of that place. And then all of a sudden the floor plan from Kathy comes popping in. It just starts to happen, and they're all putting in the elements. So by the end of the day, this feast has grown. So it starts off with photos. Always photos is the big thing for any realtor. That's what it's about. And then it just grows and grows and becomes this bigger, better, beautiful thing. And they're loving that movable feast thing. And I'm loving it because in the past, with my old structure, my old website idea, you had to wait till it was all finished before I could put it up. So they're waiting 2 days for the Gussie, for the look, the final, look at this, and it's Easter bonnet. You know what I mean? Now it's coming out literally on the same day, pictures are out. Oh, hallelujah, they go. And then next day, if that, Mark is so freaking fast. So the virtuals, he sometimes holds the virtuals back until the pictures go up because he doesn't want it to look bad that the virtual came before the photos do. He did that just yesterday, by the way. That's actually a fresh on the skillet, that one is. And so we'll do this, and it's kind of like it just grows. And I'm telling you, we're cranking out 20 or more a week now in this crazy season. And last year, if I was cranking out 20 a week under the old system, I would have a lot more white hairs and I would probably be doing meth just to augment the craziness. Whereas this year, I'm feeling easy peasy. Look, I'm drinking coffee, having a grand old time, having time to talk on an interview. You know what I mean? Because right now, as we're talking, Raquel is putting pictures up online and the agents are getting those pictures right now as we're talking. She's putting up her photos from today. And Kathy too. Boom, boom, boom. While we're talking, it's going on behind the scenes.
That's beautiful. That's a power
love
of
it.
team, right? Everybody using their skill set, and it happens without the team lead have to micromanage everything.
Exactly.
Well, I could just go on and ask you more and more questions, but I want to open it up to other people if you have questions for Tom. Go ahead and unmute yourself, or if you'd rather I read out the question, you can throw it in the chat.
I have a question first, and that is, does anyone have the Elvis hair filter? Because that would really help. Okay, move along. Next.
I would just say no, and I feel like that should never be a question ever to be asked in the first place. So,
Yes.
but I don't necessarily have any questions right now. I was just feeling like I saw your Instagram and really appreciate, as a fellow photographer, the artistic and lighting and all of that. That takes a lot of time and energy to learn and to understand and to know and to put together. And I agree with Mark about the details. It's really cool to see details because not a lot of it's a big picture and not details. And I'm a very big picture, wide angle shooter. And I have a friend that's a close shooter. And so one of the things in journalism school we learned is you have to do short and wide and medium shots. And so that really tells the story. So when you're telling your story earlier, it really connects back to storytelling. So I appreciated that, just your charismatic way of telling a story. And then also your creative visual way of telling a story connects back. So it's obvious that people like to work with you. So.
Oh, thank you. No, thank you. That's wonderful to hear that. I will say that those small details, I call it context photography, context storytelling. So you get the establishing shot, journalism. I know that world of journalism. Get the whole story. You don't want to miss that moment when the Dalai Lama slaps the Queen. It might be off to the corner, but that's the shot you want. You know what I mean? And make sure at the wide shot you're going to see that. So I get that, and that's really important. But the small detail things, I always thought in context, they tell the bigger story. So in a gallery, you see this establishing shot, very important. And then you get the detail, another establishing, another detail. But here's what I do. I call it treasure hunting. So I will actually go out and find a little jewel window piece, like a stained glass thing, and I'll shoot it. I'll put it in the gallery, stuff it in there. And then I know that people, when they go to look at that house, they're going to say, honey, I found that little bit of, honey, here's the newel post. Honey, there's that doorknob. And I've heard it happen. It's happened even while I was shooting. So I did a reshoot of a home once. People come in and seen my work the week before, and they were going downstairs talking about finding little bits and pieces that they saw in the gallery. I thought, I rest my case, I says to myself. So thank you. That's very kind of you to say, and very insightful too.
That's really fun.
I'm looking at a photograph here of an attic, and I'm thinking I did some real estate videos, and I've never even thought about the possibility of going into an attic, but it's probably a potential space that a potential buyer might want to know about. And it's actually looking pretty good. It's interesting, I find, that you're using portrait to, you don't see that very much. Mostly people they take the landscape shots, right? Not the portrait ones.
Dan, that's really, I want to make a point of that. That's really insightful too. You captured a little detail. So a lot of my agents for years, there's a thing called MLS, on Saturday, from MLS, Saturday morning in underpants or in our bathrobes, with our partners and significant others, we're looking for houses, or we're just snooping, right? And we go to MLS and we snoop around, go, honey, look at this, oh honey, look at that, and that's the world. And it's a landscape format, and it's always been. And the MLS was built in like late 90s, early 2000s, and it's never changed. The poor, sorry sod. It's a dog's breakfast. It's a horrible place. Trust me, it's a horrible place to be. It's kind of like if there was a hell for realtors, that's where you would live, in MLS for the rest of the for eternity. Well, anyways, it's all portrait, not portrait. Sorry, I'm landscape. And I had agents for years beat me over the head. Tom, enough of your artsy fartsy portrait shots. Give us the landscapes. Bloody artsy fartsy. I've had them say artsy fartsy, the actual word. So anyways, the term. So, and I would say to them in French, fuck off, because basically, in a very nice way, that's why I said it in French. So portrait, believe it or not, maybe I was a visionary. I don't know. But in this day and age, portrait is the heavy lifter on social media. You try on Instagram, you try and crop a landscape, square it, you're just going to kill your entire composition. It's gone. Forget it. But you do portrait, you've got a 4x3 and a square to work with. It'll actually do a pretty good job. So you've got a lot more legs in portrait. So I shoot, and I tell my team, we're portrait heavy, folks, because it's the heavy lifter. Social media is selling more homes than Spectator ever will. It's because it's gone. Once it's in the spec, the home's gone in this day and age, in this market. And if you can't get that portrait working, which usually tells the better story anyways, it does tend to tell a better story than the landscape. Landscape for homes, front of the house, that's just kind of like that sacrosanct. You have to do the landscape of the front of the house. It's just the Dalai Lama, the Queen, they all love that shot. You know what I mean? They got to have it, give it to them. Maybe it's a religious thing. I don't know. But once you get past that, get that portrait out and start giving the social media gang the stuff that really sells that house or sells that brand, not even the house, the brand of that agent. So good point, Dan. Thank you. Because it's I'm a great believer in portrait.
That's great. I just want to all you photographers are having a really good time. I want to focus the discussion back on freelance teams. And we can have one more question about how you actually run the team. Does anybody have a question? Otherwise, I have one.
Sure.
Okay, my question is, how do you handle the whole side of payments and agreements? So do you, are you the one who gets paid and then you pay everybody else? And what do you do about agreements?
Everything comes to Rome. All roads lead back to Rome, folks. You know what I mean? So invoices go out from Vogel Creative, little brand, the whole business. They pay me, I pay my people out, that whole kind of, that little game, right? It goes on. Agreements. Now I watched Nikki and Danielle the other day. And I like that. Yeah, I thought, I take notes on that, because I do need to do some non-disclosure agreements. Maybe that's going to come in handy. For my particular clientele, that's not as necessary as it is probably more for my staff, Mark. That we have, maybe some contracts can be looked into for example, non-competitive clauses. We just recently had to let one of our team go. And this is, it was one of those, it just wasn't fitting, wasn't working. But then in the letting go, the person actually said, well, I shall compete with you then. I shall compete. I says, oh, shall you now? And then, that whole little back and forth. And in the end, it turned out well, but there was no non-competitive agreement. So I could have been really, truly shafted. Well, not really, but it still would have been uncomfortable and would have been sad that would go that way, right? So I'm having a non-compete clause more than a non-disclosure, because what are we disclosing? Yeah, the ensuite has pink pillows. Well, or you should see the ashtrays they had in that room. You know what I mean? So what are they going to disclose, really? But when it comes to competing, so I'm training up, and I've got this group of people who would literally, if they became my competition, I'd feel pretty sick. You know what I mean? Because they're pretty damn good. So yeah, that's probably something I need to look into, just so everyone feels protected, safe. They feel safe and secure in their boundaries, and I feel safe and secure in mine. Not that I don't feel safe or secure, Mark, with that, but I definitely have an option to consider that, though I've not done that yet. So I know I'm a bit tardy on that. And if there's any kind of contract police out there, please don't tell them.
Well, it sounds like you build a really high trust environment and that you operate on that, you operate with generosity and you expect the same from the people you work with. And so therefore, probably there's lower risk, but obviously for all of us, there still is some risk. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Well,
that.
it's good to hear you've been doing it so long and you still don't have everything perfect yet. That's an
No.
encouragement for the rest of us, right? That we can try it. And collaborating, you know, it doesn't have to be a whole team right away. It can be just a partnership. That's what I've done for years, is a partnership with a graphic designer very regularly, and then selectively with web designers, social media, ad people, and just a whole variety of people when I have a bigger project and need to pull them in. But yeah, it's an evolution. And
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the word. That really is. Sorry, I interrupted that.
Oh, no problem. And I love hearing your story and just how you're that classic entrepreneur, like right from the beginning when Marcia said to you, when can you deliver, right? And the entrepreneur says, I'm pretty sure I know who could help me with this, and I'm pretty sure I can get it done. And you say yes before all the ducks are in a row, right? And, that's how we learn. That's how we grow. And yeah.
I want to say, just encourage anyone as freelancers here. Sure, the stakes are high because, of course, our reputation, and I say brand, brand, that's the term we use, right? But really, the bottom line, at a more visceral level, it's our reputations. Our reputation is very important, and that's all we've got. In the end, it's literally all we've got. Even when all our loved ones and families all wither and die around us, and we're just standing there alone on the hill, it's our reputation in the end. And so that's so important that that is maintained, and that you keep that you hang on to that. But for all the rest of it, my personal feeling is that thank God we're not brain surgeons. Thank God I don't have to put a scalpel in someone's head and then pull it out. And at the end of the day, I go home and say, well, that one was the lost one. You know what I mean? Or, oh, look, that one didn't quite work the way I liked. But with the stuff that we do, it's not life and death. And I always keep that as a perspective. It's not life or death. It's amorphous, it wiggles and wobbles. There's times when I'll make a mistake and it will reflect poorly on my reputation, not my brand, my reputation. And I think the best thing, and I've always done this, is that I've, in communication with my clients, is to say, I am sorry. You were right. I was wrong. I don't try and glass over. And I love Danielle said that last week or a month ago. She said, it's best not to sugarcoat things, to just be honest and upfront. I love that. When she said that, I thought, ding, ding, there was the bell. That's exactly it. Because when a client sees that you are vulnerable enough to say, I'm sorry, you know what? I really screwed up on that one. How can we go forward and make this so it doesn't happen again? Then bang, that trust, I think it digs in deeper. I found that, at least in my experience. I haven't found clients running from the building screaming. They've come closer because of that. Yeah. So yeah, that would be an encouragement. And again, thank you to Danielle last month on your interview for bringing that up, because it's a term that's not used often. We say we just take it as a given. We're going to be honest, right? But it's sometimes difficult to be honest. Sometimes it's difficult. It's difficult when we put in we can kind of not white lie, but just kind of not maybe just not disclose or do all those little things to get around, or say, well, thank you for your patience, instead of saying, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my approach to it.
That's a good point. And Deb has posted a question here about collaboration and under what circumstances you can do it. And I think you rightly point out, Deb, that some things depend on locations. So Tom, working with photographers, he needs to have people who are co-located or close enough that they can drive to do work together. But there's lots of other kind of projects that you can totally work on virtually, and you don't have to be co-located. Though there are some advantages to that, partly because if you're working with small businesses and local clients, then you both know kind of the local environment and what's important locally. And also you'll probably charge similar prices because your cost of living is similar. That's something where if somebody from a big city is collaborating with somebody from a smaller city or another province, or that could maybe potentially be tricky. But yeah, there are lots of different ways that collaborating among freelancers can work.
Good point.
Yeah, and as we are wrapping up, I just want to tell you a little bit more about CoLaborNation. So as I mentioned, CoLaborNation is an online community of Canadian freelance creators and communicators who trade services, learn together, refer business, and collaborate on projects. CoLaborNation also connects Canadian freelancers with potential clients. I began freelancing as a writer and editor in 2004 when I was laid off from my job. And then I discovered that I actually loved freelancing. It gave me the chance to be creative and pursue the kind of projects I really wanted to do. Collaborating with other freelancers has been part of what I've done most of my freelance life. And then a few years ago, I began wondering, would it be possible to replicate this on a larger scale? And that's why I launched CoLaborNation last August to experiment with, can we create a community where freelancers who could potentially collaborate can meet each other? Can I build structures for that kind of collaboration? And then can we find clients who want to hire not just one freelancer, but teams of freelancers? So that's what we're aiming at. It's still Wild West and adventure, and we're seeing some real momentum happening. And it's just a great place to experiment and create. There's a free network where you can post a profile in CoLaborNation. You can find useful information on freelance topics, message other members privately, or interact publicly in the newsfeed. You can also ask and answer questions and post resources for the community. And then we have a paid subscriber community called the Trusted Tribe. And in the Trusted Tribe, that's for freelancers who want to take their business to the next level through collaborating with other freelance specialists. And subscribers get all the features of the free network, plus they get access to group coaching calls monthly, networking sessions, and opportunities to meet with potential clients during monthly Zoom calls that we're calling gig exchanges. And gig exchanges are one of these experiments that I came across, as every time I talked about CoLaborNation, people would say, oh, I could use freelancers. Can you help me find somebody? And that gave me the idea for introducing clients and freelancers in these gig exchange Zoom calls where the client shares their needs with the group. So they only talk about their needs once, and then they go off into breakout rooms and freelancers can pitch them one-on-one for 10 minutes each. And things are really starting to happen there as more clients find out about it, and I'm able to hook them up with just the right freelancer who can do the kind of work they need. If this sounds like your kind of community, freelance community, I encourage you to join CoLaborNation if you haven't already. And I'll put the website in the chat. Before we wrap up, does anybody have any final questions or comments about what Tom shared, or about collaborating in general in freelance teams, or about CoLaborNation?
I guess my concern, and this is a very big question, is can I trust this person to do the work? Like if I need someone to do, say, SEO, which I know nothing about, don't want to, how can I know when I don't even know what they're doing to know if the client is going to get a good service out of this?
That's a really good point, Carl. And I have a structured vetting process that I personally use where I'll check early resonance, like some of those things that Tom talked about, where is it a good fit personality wise? Does the person present professionally? And once those elementary boxes are checked, and then I look at them online and I see, okay, they've got good recommendations on LinkedIn, they've got case studies, they've got social proof and proof that they're good at what they do, then I would try them on a small project that is low stakes. It's usually for my personal business, and I would pay them and then see if they can get results. And when I'm confident that they continue to relate professionally, they can produce results in the area they say they can, then I would try a small project with a client, and I would increase trust gradually from there. So I think if whatever your context is, you can design a process where you're gradually building that trust and you're thinking through your own criteria. What do I need in a colleague or a coworker? What signals trust to me? Who do I resonate with? And then can they deliver on their results?
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Any other